All right, let's talk about something. What happens when your entire reality just shatters? We're diving into a couple of really chilling, true stories where the normal world and the other world smash right into each other. It's going to make you wonder what's actually real.
You know, for a lot of people, ghosts and spirits are just stories, right? Superstitions. But what happens when one of those stories looks you right in the eye? Sometimes these encounters, they don't start because you're a believer. They start because you're a skeptic, and you decide to poke the bear.
And that brings us to our first story. It's about this young guy, a DSP. That's a Deputy Superintendent of Police. He's a total rationalist, you know the type. Only believes what he can see, touch, and prove with cold, hard facts. Logic is his whole world. But, as you're about to see, one job assignment is going to throw all of that right out the window. So, this guy sees the world in really simple terms, right? Black and white. Legal, illegal. That's it. So when the local people start whispering about a haunted highway, he doesn't hear about ghosts. He hears a crime. He thinks, aha, someone's using a scary story to cover something up, and he's determined to get to the bottom of it. Little did he know, his little investigation was about to take a turn from confident cop to, well, something else entirely. And look, this wasn't just some spooky campfire tale. This highway was dangerous. We're talking more than 21 deaths. And every single person who survived a crash there told the exact same story. They saw a woman hanging from this big old peepal tree. The locals, they were convinced it was a curse. The DSP, he just saw it as a clever trick, a smokescreen for real criminals, and he was going to be the one to pull back the curtain.
So what did he think about all these warnings from people who were genuinely scared? He thought it was ridiculous. His own driver begged him to be careful, and his response was, basically, "Are you kidding me? What nonsense." To him, it was all so clear. This wasn't supernatural. It was just criminals using fear to their advantage.
So, of course, he decides to go check it out himself, alone. At night, he gets on his motorcycle, rides right up to that creepy old tree, ready to prove everyone wrong. And he finds nothing, just an old shawl hanging there. He probably had a little smirk on his face, feeling pretty smug as he turned to leave. But that's when things got weird. His bike started to feel heavy, like really heavy. He glances at his side mirror, wipes away the condensation, and what he sees staring back at him, well, it was impossible.
And just like that, his whole world came crashing down. Literally. The man who rode out to bust a myth woke up in a hospital bed, a believer. The very first thing he says to his boss isn't about some criminal plot. It's, the legends are true. That one moment completely broke him. He put in for a transfer and was out of that town just a few months later. Done.
Okay, so the DSP basically stumbled into the unknown and got knocked flat. But what if the connection isn't like that? What if it's not a sudden, shocking event? What if for some people, it's something you're just born with? Like an inheritance you can't get rid of, a shadow that follows you from a past life.
This brings us to these twin sisters, Bhavna and Sambhavna. For them, the paranormal wasn't some external thing they ran into. It was part of their lives from the very beginning. It started small, you know? They'd have the same dreams about being witches. This weird, sweet, floral smell would follow them around. But then it got more intense. One of them had a premonition that actually saved the other's life. And then came the part that you just can't explain away. Every single night, their beds would start to levitate. Just float, feet up in the air.
I mean, what do you do with that? Their family was completely desperate, so they took them to the Kumbh Mela. It's this huge spiritual festival, hoping someone, anyone, could give them an answer. And they found someone, an Aghori mystic. And the explanation he gave them, wow, it was way stranger and frankly more terrifying than any simple ghost story. This mystic, he didn't beat around the bush. He took one look at these girls and laid it all out there. He basically told them, you've got it all wrong. You're not being haunted by something. He said, this is yours. It's an inheritance. Because in your past life, you were both witches. And he didn't stop there. He laid out this whole incredible backstory. He told them that Bhavna, one of the sisters, was actually the queen of a whole kingdom of witches. He said their good karma allowed them to be reborn as human, but, and this is the crazy part, the dark forces they used to control, their so-called servants, are still connected to them. That's why normal prayers and rituals didn't work. Their very souls are wired to a completely different kind of power. And apparently, they were reborn for a very specific reason, a purpose they don't even know yet. Okay, so let's pause for a second.
We've got a skeptic who is basically forced into believing, and we have twins who are born with this supernatural legacy. But it makes you wonder, right? Why do these things happen? Is it all just random, or is there some kind of rule or principle behind it all?
Well, what if the answer isn't about magic, but about physics? A kind of spiritual science, maybe. The theory boils down to this one word: resonance. You know, like in science class? The idea is that everything has a frequency, an energy signature. And if a person's frequency just so happens to match a spirit's frequency, bam, a connection is made, an interaction can happen.
Think about it like an old-school radio. The broadcast for station 92.7 FM is all around you, right? The waves are in the air. But if your radio dial is tuned to 92.5, you hear static. You hear nothing. You only hear the music when you tune to that exact frequency. So what if the spirit world is just like that? Always there, but on a different frequency.
Now, if we take this idea of frequencies, it gives us a really interesting way to look back at both of the stories we just heard.
Think about it. The DSP, he was like someone who didn't even believe radios worked. But by going to that tree and directly challenging that entity, he accidentally fiddled with the dial and tuned into its frequency, just for a moment. And that connection was terrifying. The twins, on the other hand, it's like they were born with their radio dial soldered in place, permanently locked onto that other station. They're broadcasting and receiving a signal that the rest of us just can't pick up.
And that's the thought I want to leave you with. What if the barrier between our world and whatever comes next isn't some big solid wall? What if it's just a different frequency, a signal that's filling the air all around us, right now, just waiting for us to accidentally or maybe intentionally tune in?